You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, good afternoon, because that's what it is. The sun is shining, the world is all right, and we got a point last night. Who would have thought? Only 29.5% possession, and we managed to come out of that with a 1-1 draw. It's funny that, isn't it? It seems to just remind me of something, not having much possession and yet doing well. It was last night, the first game back in the Premier League. It was 1-1 between Leicester and Tottenham. This is the review show, and welcome along to LTID TV1. If you are watching via YouTube, thank you very much. Do join in, and Twitch as well. Welcome along. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast, thank you very much for lending me your ears. And if you're watching on catch up, stick your comments below. We're always grateful to read them. Follow us on all the main socials, LTID TV. Just type it in, you'll find us. We're there. Like a fart in a lift, we hang around just waiting for you to find us. This is, like I say, the review show. Let's do it. Brad, good afternoon. Smiles all round.
Good afternoon indeed, Chris. Well, 24 hours ago, if you'd told me I'd be doing a review show on the Leicester Tottenham game and said I'd be smiling about it this time tomorrow, I wouldn't have agreed with you at all. But wow, what a game.
You know, I mean, I went for a 3-0 defeat. And I was being honest with myself because we had that point, we hadn't got a striker. We didn't know Vardy was fit. And I think a lot of people that maybe even went for the draw, which was obviously yourself included, I think it was more through loyalty than optimism, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was. But, you know, a point's a point, but not for Leicester, Chris. There's a few of us that were a bit more optimism and showed faith and were rewarded with points in the predictions league, I believe, Chris. Unlike some people. I never go against a big club. I can't do it no matter who we play. Do it again next week, Chris. Do it again next week.
I know. I did feel the right reverse psychology. But let's be honest with you. We'll get into it, but at half time, it could have been more than the 3-0 down that I'd predicted. You know, so.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Spurs at the best.
Exactly. Premier League is back, and let's see what everybody's been saying.
The Premier League is back, and we've got it all covered here on Leicester Till I Die TV. Subscribe.
All right, let's get into the comments. Gray is in. Afternoon, Chris. Absolutely excellent second half last night, and we could have nicked it. Could have, would have, should have, I believe, actually. Gray. Reese is in. Thank you very much, Reese. Welcome along. And Brad, you are a very generous person. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated that. Subscribe if you think Spurs are still Spursy. What did they ever stop being Spursy?
Well, that's why everybody who's watching who hasn't done already should subscribe.
Yes.
It's a simple plug, isn't it?
And Gary says we are desperate for a striker. Yeah, I think we know, and I think Cooper knows. And Cooper's come out and said, "Look, there's more money." Yes, we signed Skippy yesterday as well, but we do know we need a striker, and I think we're going to find the money for that. Gray, you're a gentleman as well, sir. Thank you very, very much. And Wayne, evening, guys. First show yesterday, first game yesterday, and but first of two shows today. It's a double header. It's a double header today, and Spurs Spuds indeed. It's just sticking his finger up. Thank you very much. Look, I've got them already. I've got them as we lost, we drew, we won, depending whichever way we do. I can't quite play the orgasm jingle, but look, we drew. And like I say, I'd gone 3-0 to Spurs at half time. I've said we were hanging on, but you read my review on the BBC earlier, didn't you, Brad? And I've put on there that winning a game is not just about scoring goals; it's about defending well as well. And we did all right defending in the first half, didn't we?
Yeah, and realistically, whilst they were nervy off moments, indeed, yes, okay, indeed, he clears one off the line.
Very acrobatically, actually, yes.
Yeah, but it needed to be,
Yes.
if we're being honest. But the goal aside, Madsen had very manageable saves to make. Yes, the shot by what was his name? Johnson or whatever his name was a
I don't
nice
know,
like,
but his paint's very good, apparently.
well, yes, if they're to be true, but his shot was powerful, but it was a good height for the goalkeeper. So, I don't remember. It wasn't like Madders was made to pull off 20, 30 saves in the first half. We're sat there going, fuck me, how's he kept us in this game? The defence was really, really solid. A lot of people were questioning the back line. It was the biggest concern. All phase in the Premier League, he ain't that standard. All Vestergaard's pace, will he get outclassed by Solanke? Didn't look it.
No.
Even though the first half was very passive, it was a great test to put on display for him. If you're going to give him a test, that's the sort of test that you want to be seeing, isn't it? And they, to a degree, Chris, yes, there was some moments, and there was a few cheeky nutmegs in there that were a bit embarrassing at times, but it was a solid 8 out of 10 defensive performance if you're going to rate it on a whole, because they stuck to their guns. And we'll get into it a bit later on for the, and I'm going to call it now. We'll talk about it when we get to the tactics side of things. The Madders effect. Spurs felt the end product of that sort of thing. We nullified them to a degree that's what ended up swinging the momentum for us in the second half. And ultimately, Chris, Sky brought up then, we were the better team in the second half. So a draw was a fair result in over the course of 90 minutes.
Totally. And look, I like my stat. I'm a stat man. I look at stats and I see. But I have got to say, that game yesterday is so perfect for you to say, stats say one thing. There's only one stats that matter, and that's the 1-0. Exactly. There.
I'll get there in the end.
Yeah, down in that corner. And it's true. I mean, that said, look, we won that bloody trophy back there with average of about 25% possession, didn't we? So we know it doesn't mean much. And look, that first half, I mean, they were just piling on the corners. What's all this? We always concede from a corner shit. They actually had, and I can tell you this because this is a stat I do like actually. They had 13 corners. Scored from any? No.
Yep, no. I think they got one clear header from them as well, Chris. I don't remember a corner having my heart in my mouth. The first one I did because I thought, oh God, I know what we're like at set pieces. But honestly, they had 6 corners in the first like 3 minutes of the game or something daft like that, or whatever it was. And you know what, mate? Cooper made the call. He got his man in, the set piece coach, to work on things. Something that he said he was very intrigued to fix at Leicester. It's problem he dealt with Forest. So far, so good. The 90-minute showing, like I said, no real issues from defending corner. 13 corners came into the box, and the only team it was unlucky for was Tottenham because they couldn't get near it. They couldn't land a decent chance from any of them, really, realistically.
No, they didn't. There's no two ways about it. But I lost view for about 12, 13 minutes. I lost my stream completely. The Premier League apparently put a little boot in the system, which meant that I wasn't able to watch it by the official stream that I was watching it by. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? So I only saw it up to 29 minutes and then the last 5 minutes, but I think I'm probably glad I did expect to come back and be about 2-0, but it is all about defending, isn't it?
It is, and let's face it, there wasn't probably too many people going to that game or watching that game or listening to that game or however they chose to follow the game last night, that weren't thinking Leicester are gonna, weren't sat there thinking Leicester won't need to do a lot of defending tonight. We took the same natural approach that most, if not all, newly promoted sides take when they play their first Premier League game, especially against a side of Tottenham's calibre. And, it is all about defending, but it's about getting it right. And I think despite the control that Tottenham had for the first 35 minutes of that game, because we did have a spell where we kind of bedded in and kind of stopped treating them with so much respect. That we did a really good job, Chris. Like I said, the goal and that shot, I can't even say Solanke's header because it was a poor decision to make the headed attempt in the end. I think if he stays on his feet and follows it, we might be talking about a different result. But the fact of the matter is, Chris, it's not like I said, it's not like we're looking at that half-time stats going, sod me, Madson's made 12 saves in this one half alone.
Yeah.
It was 2 or 3.
You made the point 100% correctly. First of all, it was an acrobatic save from Ndidi. And, that he's a defensive midfielder. That's part of his job. And Mads, and I know you're part of the goalkeepers union, and I don't want to take anything away from him. There were good saves. There were saves that had to be made, but there was nothing that he had to really. Most of them was just straight at him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, and that's why I only say realistically, one chance barring the goal was anything of note, because that was probably a save that, yes, it was straight at him, but that could have easily had too much and not reacted quick enough. That could have gone straight past him before he moved, sort of thing, because it was hit with a bit of venom. Anything else, Chris, I'd have expected a keeper facing the wrong way to have still been able to turn around and save, because it was the Solanke header was nothing. In fact, he probably had a better chance in the second half and did no better with it because he hit it straight at Madsen. So, yeah, again, I admit the crowd and the expectation and the nervousness around the game, and some people getting so depressed they were thinking we're going to get only 10 points this season, worse than Derby. Well, we only need another 11 points to overtake that. So don't worry, guys. I think we'll manage that this season with that performance. Yes. But the nerves were there. But if you really think about it and really cast your mind back to chances, yes, they had 10 chances in that first half, but I think they only had 3 on target, Chris. And again, like you said, one was a goal and 2 were straight out of Madsen for all intents and purposes.
Of the 15 chances they had, and at one point in that second half, we were 7-6 up with chances. So we weren't not going for it, if you know what I mean. It was pretty much, at that point. But they did end up with 15 chances, but only 7 of those on target, and 5 of them were blocked. And look, let's have a look. Well, let's just catch up with a few chats, and then we'll have a look at the team. Reese went 1-1. Gray says, "Play Frankie, relax." Very well organised back 4 last night, especially second half. Vardy's having a party. We're here for it. Great, not first bloody. Sorry, I must have missed something, Wayne. But great. Or how good was Cooper's interviews? He's bang on it. He said it right. Yeah. First half we were too passive. Not being bad. I was nervous, but with that performance, not being bad, I still think we'll get top 12. James, get in, lads. I'm delighted beyond words. The second half, Christian JJ needs some love in particular. I thought they were fantastic second half. And Ray, Vardy being in the lineup changed everything, changed the mood completely. When I looked at that team, I thought, okay, I would have started with Mavididi because we've seen him all last season. But Decovery can play that position. Okay, but we'll come on to him later. And I looked at that and thought, that's probably as good as it gets. Yes, you could have probably thrown Ricardo in there.
Yeah, you could have. You could have thrown him in there. Like you said, you could have played Mavididi over Dickard over Reed. But realistically, Chris, I said this last night. At the half, before the game kicked off, you're probably saying the wingers and the wing backs are going to be the most rotated positions this season in what
Yes.
they offer on the pitch, and you saw what it was they offered in different parts of the game when the result changes, when the time was etching out, the subs that we made showed you the approach that he went for from the start to the finish of how he wanted us to go about the game, and the game management was brilliant. And I agree with the comment earlier, a few comments up about Cooper's interview. That is one of the most impressive and honest interviews I've heard a manager say, because he could have easily have given a stereotypical report where he went, "Yeah, we weren't at the races first half, but we got them together and we did really well." Blah, blah. No, he was very much in the praise camp, but he was happy to admit him and even the players, because you all take responsibility for it, got it wrong in the first half and didn't live up to the game plan. And like you said, the knock-on effect of not doing the in-game plan was the out-game plan couldn't come together either, and they had a word and put their hands up and said, "All right, this isn't working. Let's do this." Chris, does that sound like someone who just has a plan A, or just come here, Chris? Come here. Just don't say it too loud because we're not used to Leicester fans. Maybe he changed things up, and maybe it was slightly like having a plan B. Just don't say it too loud. Don't let everybody else know. Don't let everybody else know. We'll cut that out. We'll edit it out. It's not live. Won't let the viewers know.
Possibly. I mean, look, we could have had 6 subs because we have the concussion sub, and I didn't realise that if Team A gets the concussion sub, then so does Team B.
Yeah.
So that was fair. And let's just say, Benacourt, to him, glad he's okay. Glad the lad's fine. It looked a bit bad. It was obviously 9 minutes, but no, we send our best wishes to him, and so I'm glad. We're all glad, I'm sure, that he's okay. Yeah, I mean, Ricardo was a surprise. Justin did all right. Vestergaard, look, yes, that first half was bad. Yes, we were defending, but any team, when they play a newly promoted side, surely what you do is you go at them from the start, because you want to say, right, we're the established Premier League team. You're the upstarts that have just come up. You ain't going to give a good start. We're going to come and we're going to put a few past you if we can. So, you got to kind of expect it. And yes, we were defending at times, but we were defending in numbers. And Vestergaard, all right, he hasn't got the speed, but he didn't need to. At one point, I think Solanke was past him, and he just stuck his foot out and got the ball. He's thinking that's all you need to do.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do with Vestergaard, and that's how you get the best of him. And we saw it a bit last season, to be honest with you, even because you're right, Chris. Yes, we were the more, I want to say, established side. We weren't like a Luton or a Sheffield United coming up. I haven't had too many seasons in there, because so we are a bit of a veteran of the promotion and staying in the division sort of championship side. But you're right, Chris. We are still a banana skin. We're not. All right, it's not like Ipswich against Liverpool, where Liverpool fans have been like, "God, we need to get a goal early because we don't want to be doing this for 70 odd minutes," because they'll grow in confidence. And Spurs shoulda, coulda, woulda, but didn't kill us off when they did get their noses in front. And you know what? It was very, very good defending all round. And I think, some people may have wanted Okalai or Okale, or however you're going to pronounce it. Okole, Okazaki, whatever. But you know what I mean? People might have said, "Oh no, get him in. We don't need Vestergaard. He's too slow." You needed an anchor in that back line, because, Chris, you were very right, and it was very blatant seeing that first at least 40 minutes of the game, Chris. Tottenham were going to put everything in Leicester's half, and they were going to push us all the way back and make us defend in a back line of 5 and a back line of 5 in front of that. You know what I mean? Two backs of 5 it was, for Leicester, essentially, for the majority of that first half. And that's the sort of play you want, Chris, because if the counter's on, what Vestergaard is very good at, and we saw it a lot last season, is he can get the ball out from underneath his feet. He can keep you at arm's length away with how tall he is, and his long legs give him that extra half a yard ahead of you, and he can put a pass out. Yeah. So if a Wout phase or an Ndidi or I'm going to call him number 40, who we'll get on to him later on, by the way. Yeah, number 40, as I called him. I said it right.
Isn't it good how I'm so confident and big-headed when I can pronounce them?
Yeah, but sometimes you can't even say Varley right, so it balances itself out.
This is true.
But my point is, Chris, you need that anchor when you're playing a team that's going to be so on the front foot and coming at you, to just kind of go, you know what, I'll take responsibility. I'll dig us out. I'll ping the ball out to Cordova Reed. I'll pass it out to Fatawu. You guys worry about the counter-attack charge. I'll be here to sweep house if you need it. And that's what he did last season. I know we had our frustrations under Snake, but that was how we did it, wasn't it, Chris? And that's something I want to touch on quickly. I know I'm just digging a hole here, Chris, and I'm sure you're happy to see it. How refreshing was it to see that Mads was actually allowed to kick the ball more than 5 yards?
I mean, you're reading my notes here. You're reading my notes. I mean, yes, he was kicking the ball long, and yes, I've got to say, quite often it was coming straight back at us. I mean, like you say, if you go, and please everybody do this, go onto the BBC Leicester City Football Club page and look at my blog that I've put on there. And I said at times it was like Rorke's Drift for those of you that watch the film Zulu, but the thing is, when we were kicking it long, if we were losing it, which we were in the first half, it was in their half and we had time to regroup. We weren't giving it away just outside the box. And it was refreshing to see that. But did you also notice, then we were talking about Vestergaard, that he wasn't playing as far forward as he was under Enzo?
No, and that's the wise, smart option. It's the best way to use a player who's got the experience to defend at this level, but not got the legs for the pace. You need him to be there, filling that gap, being the last line of defence. But it was refreshing. I mean, I watched it with the family in the front room last night, and sometimes, especially in that first half, it was getting a bit frustrating seeing the ball go out of play. And one of my brothers at one point said to me, he goes, "Bloody hell, he can't kick this Manson, can he?" I says, well, two things. I said, I'd rather him kick him out of play in their half than kicking it out of play for a throw in at the edge of our box. And I says, and to be fair to him, he spent 12 months not being able to pass more than 10 yards because he'd get shouted at. So he's not used to kicking it 40, 50, 60 yards up the field, is he? And he laughed at me and went, yeah, fair point.
And does he not remember Casper's attempts at kicking it upfield?
They're still going over the Tigers' goalpost, Chris. Don't talk about Casper's long-distance kicking.
But, I mean, I want to also, and we'll come on to ratings and everything later, I thought Christensen had an absolutely brilliant game. He was running, he was dripping with sweat after about 10 minutes. It was his, when we got the goal, there was him and I think it was Ndidi, that what we're doing in the second half, we were fighting for the second balls, which we weren't always doing in the first half. And at that, I had just written, we need to get in these second balls. And I think they may have said it on the commentary as well. And just as he did that, we got that, crossed it in, went all the way over to Fatawu, who chipped, I think it was the outside of his boot, Fatawu.
It was so cheeky.
Yeah, and Vardy, I'm sorry, Spurs, I mean, so Spursy, how do you leave a player like Vardy unmarked in the box?
It's criminal, and they got everything they deserve from it in scoring. But you're right, Chris, it was so good to see. And okay, I know it's not like he went 12 months without playing football because he went out on loan with Bologna and played really well for them. But he's someone that's been left out of the mix for 12 months. He's been left out of the cold at Leicester for 12 months because he went straight out on loan. And he's come back in with the right attitude, the same attitude he had when we went down because he wanted to stay. It was Enzo that forced him out in a way because he just went, well, it's my way or the highway. Cooper hasn't necessarily done that. He might have a plan of action, but he's willing to complement the players we've got, which I think we're going to have to do a lot. We're going to really have to this season. because whilst we've got a decent squad, we haven't got a lot in that sense, if you know what I mean, Chris. Like, we've got a decent squad, but we haven't got
We
a
know
lot.
we still need additions, don't we? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And as well as probably a few exits just to keep that balance of the books, if you will. But it was nice to see that he came back in and he looked so up for it. He looked really up for it. He made some quality challenges. He was getting forward. He never shirked his responsibility. And on that left-hand side, him and Wilfred and Didi harassed that left-hand side. And like you said, Chris, it ended up working to lead to the goal. And Chris, there was some links of sexy Brazilian football playing at some point, wasn't there?
See, don't talk about Brazilian football because it only lasts for 45 minutes. But yes, but he was being allowed to get the crosses in. What I want to say, I said after the Lens game, however you want to pronounce it, that this was Steve Cooper's master plan, was to lull everybody into thinking we were really, really shit, and then we would come out. And look, it's a point. Let's not get overexcited. It's a point, but we should have lost that game. We didn't through to good defending and last-ditch defending, I will accept at times. We did what we have to do, which was hit them on the break, and we scored. We could have easily won it. Oh, if only Cannon had been there instead of Ndidi at the end for that header. But look, we got the point. Where was that performance? Where's it been hiding?
Well, I mean, it's been in the pre-season development in the Championship to a degree, hasn't it, Chris? We did see that effort that ago, and I think it's just refreshing. I think we've got, and I think we should get really excited about this draw, Chris, because there wasn't. I know a few people in the predictions league predicted a draw, but a lot of the majority of us, Chris, if I even said on the prediction show, I don't go against Leicester, so I'm going for a draw. But I did agree with you initially. I did feel last night was going to be a horror show for us, and it wasn't, Chris. It was performance by hook or by crook. We were still in the game by half time. 6 of one, half a dozen on the other. Whether you say it was a bit of luck or really bad, on Tottenham's finishing standards. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Chris, they dug in deep and they just kept themselves together. And you saw that with the celebration of the goal. That reminded me, that took me back to the 2015-16. So the crowd was electric. The noise, the volume from the KP, it was throw me back to that Norwich game where we caused an earthquake, Chris. Yes. It was kind of like that to a degree. I don't think we caused any earthquakes last night, but we definitely shook the Premiership.
You mean the earth wasn't moving for you last night?
No, I wasn't that lucky.
I mean,
no, you know what I mean, Chris?
Sorry, Brad. Jamie Vardy says there, that chance, though, a few years ago, he or Jamie there would smash that into the net. But Jamie Vardy, this to me, they say Fox is never quick. To go into the manager's office and go, boss, we're struggling up front. I'm going to be fit enough. Maybe not for the whole game, but stick me on for at least 45 or whatever. I know he didn't have much to do in that first half, but how that sums it up. I mean, there's a picture of him walking in after half time with a Red Bull in his hand. I don't know how many he had, but it's that attitude, isn't it? And even if this guy only plays 10 games this season, it's what he's going to bring to that dressing room.
It is. And if you're a new signing, and if you're a youngster on the bench or you're watching in the stands or whatever, and you've heard a lot of talk about this Leicester family mentality, and you're thinking, yeah, but is it just a few of them or all like that? And you're sat in that, changing room or learning about it after the match, and you're saying that your 37-year-old striker who hadn't had a pre-season for the last 2 weeks due to recovering from injury has put his neck on the line to go, I do not want to see us without an experienced striker on the pitch. I'm your man. I'm taking responsibility. Give me an hour tops. You know, I
Mm.
can run around for a little bit afterwards if you want. Give me an hour. I will give you my blood, sweat, and tears. And seeing his performance last night, and again, the goal was Jamie Vardy-esque, a fool's goal, if you will, for Tottenham's defending. I mean, it's been criticised a lot by you know, by Spurs fans saying it's criminal to leave anybody open like that, let alone Vardy. That must inspire you in the dressing room to see that. That must look at me. This guy is 37. He could be collecting his paycheck and be like the rest of the doom and gloom and saying, "Oh, sodders were down already. What's the point?" No, he's rolled his sleeves up. He's gone sodded at the fact that I've not played football for 2 weeks properly. I'm ready, boss. Get me on that pitch. I'll do what I can to make sure we get some from this game. And the man delivers. The man delivers every time.
It is. And look, like you said, very, very true. The guy played, what was it, a half pre-season, 40-odd minutes, if that. I can't remember when he came off because obviously it wasn't a live game that we could watch, but he had hardly no training for weeks. And for him to go and do that, God,
He got 4 training sessions under his belt, Chris, before that game.
Yeah.
He had 4 training sessions under his belt and goes and does that.
I've got to say, and I'm not having a go at everybody, but people in the chat, it's good to see they're actually now finally acknowledging Vestergaard as the player he can be.
Yeah, you know what? One of my brothers hit the nail on the head. It's like we got the Vestergaard that originally was a Southampton player. You know, it was brilliant to see. He's experienced head. We have had the luxury over the last few years. All right, not 2 seasons ago with Johnny Evans, but for the first couple of years of his seasons with us, Johnny Evans, Wes Morgan, Robert Hoof. We have had that experienced head, you know, that has guided the defence and shored us up and gave not just his teammates, but the fans the relaxed feeling of going, that's right, he'll deal with it.
Yes.
You know exactly what he's going to do because he's not. And we had moments, Chris, where a few players tried to do a bit too much and lost the ball. You know, with Vestergaard, and he can ping it as well, Chris. He ain't going to kick it out of play too often.
No.
He can send that ball 40 yards and allow us to reset. Even if he just drops it into some space and says, go on, Vardy, if he can, why not?
He doesn't need to go that far forward because he can do those amazing passes from the back line. He doesn't have to be in there. I mean, how high? If I'm not, look, at the end of the day, Enzo's Enzo. He got us promoted and we have to thank him for that. The style of player, I honestly think playing that high up the pitch, which Enzo wants, would have cost us a lot.
Definitely.
You know. And I don't think Vestergaard needs to. A new manager comes in and says, "Oh, this is the best that you can do, but I think I can add something to you. Just stand in, just hold back a little bit. You don't need to go forward because you can ping those passes forward, and you've suddenly got a Premier League defender on your hands."
Exactly, Chris. Like I said, Leicester have had it in pairs for a long time. Evans with Maguire. Evans hung back, so Maguire could go forward. Vestergaard sits back, so Faze can push forward. You know, I know they were both roughly the same age, but Wes Morgan sat back, so Robert Hoof could go forward because he was the more experienced Premier League, defender. So. Yeah. It's about complementing each other in that midfield. I don't mean saying they look pretty and they look really good. I mean, the chalk and cheese, if you will, of each other. Fast-pacing Faze, sensible, reliable, dependable Vestergaard. You've got to have that balance.
Johnny Evans' first game, I actually had a season ticket at the time, and I was behind the goal that we were defending, and he was fucking awful for us that first game. So what the hell was he valued at 20-odd million by Man City for? But obviously then he before he went a bit off the rails at the end, he did he was a good defender. But I tell you what, this mate's good looking. Look, it's a game, I know, and back in the day when I was a lad,
stop the count.
Exactly. But I mean, back in the day in cloth cap and whippet days, we never saw one of these until we played 10 games. But look, at the we know we're going to, that probably won't be worth it. Well, it could be worth it. So that could be the point when we get a points deduction that actually just keeps us up in 17th.
Funny enough, that's what I was thinking, Chris. Imagine if we end up staying up by a point. We're gonna, this performance look back on it. I tell you what, Chris, I know we're only 10th, but I'm looking above. There must be Chris. You've got the wrong table, Chris. You've got the wrong table because I'm looking 9th, no 8th, no 7th, no 6th, no 5th, no. No, sorry, I'm looking just above the relegation zone and I found them. It's Enzo FC, Chelsea. There they are, just above Ipswich.
Indeed. I mean, and I've got to be honest with you. Even at 1-0 at half time, I'd watched a bit of the Chelsea Man City game, and actually Chelsea didn't look too bad, but at times. But somebody said at the end of that game, to fairness to Enzo, they said he will not come up against teams like as good as Manchester City every single week. And then I was looking at this at half time, and I thought we are not going to come up against teams. And whatever you say about Spursy and Spuds and all that. They finished 5th last season. They are a European team. They are playing in the Europa League last season. We can't, say that they, are not a good team. They should have beaten us. They didn't. Whether they were not shooting off, but we can only play who's against us. And at 1-0, I thought, well, if we do lose this, just hope we come out and play. But the thing was, had we lost 1-0, but given that second half performance, I would have still been happy.
Yeah, and I still felt very positive, and I think that was the biggest thing about last night's game. You can lose the game, it's just a manner in what you do it. And if we'd have come away from here and lost it 1-0 or lost it 2-1, yes, we'd have been disappointed we didn't get a draw from it, but it was still sat here going, you know what, good effort, put the effort in, we'll pick up more points than we'll drop if we play like we did that second half against team. And I think that's what we have to take from it. We don't get too carried away and start singing how we're going to win the league, although we are only 2 points off top, just saying. But my point is, Chris, we're also a point off the relegation. So
I wasn't going to say that. I thought, he'll notice that.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to cover my own back by saying
I know.
But Chris, that importance of that second half performance was crucial because I just think it gave everybody a lift. And like I said, the way the game played out, the way the outcome happened, you could tell that the positivity was round and back in that King Power Stadium. I think a lot of, and I know people say don't get carried away, but if you think of how negative the mindset is and how a lot of people probably going, well, at least we're at home because if this does go wrong, we can leave early and we can get home to, getting tucked up in bed by 10 o'clock. I think a lot of people were dreading the journey. Living in Leicester, you thought, well, at least we can do that. But to see that effort, to see that performance, and ultimately, Chris, actually come away with a result, I think there's a lot of people this morning that, without getting too carried away, Chris, would have changed their tune on just how difficult, which is still going to be a difficult season, but just how difficult is it going to be? I don't think there'll be many people suddenly thinking still that we're going to embarrass Derby by getting,
embarrass ourselves, by getting less than Derby.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, we're not going to end up on 10 points unless we get to about 40 points. We get dot 30. That'd be the only way I can see it happening.
Exactly. Look, very quickly, and then we'll come on to your tactical review, and then we'll look at the players. But like I say, I'm glad that Bentancur is okay. But it did. I know, all right. There's never a good time for something like that to happen, is there? Let's be honest. But it did come at a good time. If any of these things can happen at a good time, we were on top at that point. There was only one team after we equalised. There was only one team going to win it, and that was Leicester. Until that happened, and that kind of did sort of put a spoke in our wheels, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And obviously, first of all, I want to say I'm glad to hear from what I can tell that he's it's a concussion thing. It's nothing too serious to my knowledge. And I wish him a speedy recovery. I don't know what the laws are on it. I don't know if he has to have 14 days away from the sport. I know in certain sports they're not allowed to. I think in cricket, sorry to bring it up, but it's the only one I know. They're not allowed to like play the next test if they have a concussion test. And I think football, he might not be able to play this weekend. But thankfully, it's nothing too major. You know, and I do wish him a speedy recovery, and glad to see that it is, like I said, just concussion. But also, Chris, um as bad as it was a momentum killer, I think it also snuffled out Spurs a little bit as well, because they had a little bit of readjusting to do. Their minds kind of went off from the game for a little bit, because obviously they're concerned for their teammate, and it maybe threw them off a little bit, and they weren't able to focus. So it kind of did both teams in that sense. But yes, Chris, I still agree with you. Even right up to the 9 minutes that were inevitably added on as well, Chris. If any team was going to score another goal, it was Leicester. And in all reality, we could have and probably should have been the team that took the winner. In all fairness,
yes. Well, I'll leave the table up there. Do you want to go through your view of the match from a tactical point of view, I guess?
Yeah, I think the first half, I tried to join the celebrity list that VIPs that we have here at BBC by giving my fans for, but it wasn't good enough apparently to get selected. But my thoughts were, the first half was predictably passive, but maybe a bit too generous. There is not many newly promoted sides, no matter their Premier League experience, that come back up and get a tough test of an opening game and don't play the same way that we did for that first half, because we were under the risk of trying to be too aggressive, trying to be too in their face, and leaving ourselves very exposed to what is ultimately a very good Spurs side. We know what their number 10 can do. We witnessed it enough at the King Power, and we had to witness it a little bit more last night with his assist in Madison. We know what they are capable of. And if we'd have allowed Spurs to not only have the ball the way they did, but being caught out pressing a high line, that scoreline that maybe should have happened but didn't would have happened, Chris. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We left ourselves short at the back. We would have been exposed and played off the park, and it would have been, well, the game kicked off at 8 o'clock, Chris, and had we played like that after by 20 past 8, we'd have all been turning it off, and you'd have shut the stream down because it'd have been game over, and it'd been worse than that 6-2 horror show we had. The last time we was in the Premier League against them. Admittedly, that was away from home, but still. Having said that, you have to wrestle the initiative, and it was no real surprise to me that eventually, after 29 minutes of banging the door down, they eventually broke the door and got the goal, because we probably gave them that much respect that by the time we tried to get a foothold in the game and get a little bit of a foothold and a little bit of passing going and a little bit of momentum, Spurs quickly nipped in and got the goal. Now, the biggest cliche in footballing history, or at least one of the biggest cliches in football history, is football of a game of two halves. That's not just because we're all stupid as fans and didn't realise it sort of, 90 minutes gets split in half. Sometimes a game of football can be a game of two halves. And this was the biggest advert for it. Because in the second half, as Cooper said in his post-match interview, he wasn't happy with what happened. The players weren't happy with what wasn't happening. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing on the pitch. And there was reasons behind why they weren't doing what they was doing on the pitch. So together, They came together, they discussed the issues, and came up with a way to come up with a solution to that. And we saw that with a little bit of change. And I'm going to call him number 40 for the viewers that probably knew him as that without trying to pronounce his name. Smugger's out above me can pronounce it, but he can't say Vardy, so it's all right. Anyway, we then didn't change too much, but we changed enough to do a little bit more damage, because what we found is we had an attacking midfielder and winger doing defensive work in the first half. Now, we saw last season, Chris, didn't we? Fatawu is brilliant. He can defend nearly as good as he can go forward. But what we weren't doing when we did get the ball in the first half is we weren't being able to explode out the traps and try and get into their half quickly, keep the numbers game in our favour or level pegging so we could form an attack. In the second half, we did that. In the second half, the midfield seemed to gel. We weren't having, number 40 and Didi, and Winks all at the edge or in our own box. They were 10 yards outside our box. We were attacking, we were pressing. Fatu was in space waiting for the ball out on the wing. Christensen was told to push up more and came into the game more in an attacking sense in the second half. And almost to a degree, I kind of said, it's kind of Leicester of old, this second half performance, because it really was, Chris. And, the second half, we just really stepped in at them. And to a degree, it's almost like we went, what are we doing? I almost feel like the half-time talk we're doing, what are we doing? Not only are we not doing things Leicester way, but we know their biggest threat. Their biggest threat spent 5 years at this club, and we know how teams nullified them as well. And that's where maybe someone like Vardy and Cooper maybe shared a look and went, yeah, come here, Vard, tell them how to stop James Maddison. Because I tell you what, Chris, this is something that he was guilty of happening to him at Leicester, and I'm not blaming him because he is a talent, but I'm going to point out something that it's nice to see the shoe on the other foot. And that was, Chris, in the first half, we gave him all the space in the world. It's almost like we gave Spurs more respect in the first half because Maddison was there and because of a lot of people's love for Maddison. All the time in the world on the left, he had all the time in the world whether he had it on the left or in the middle, Chris. The second half, he was missing. You could put wanted posters up. Where is Maddison? Have you seen this Spurs player? Because I don't remember him, Chris, in that second half really hearing his name when you couldn't stop hearing it in the first half. And that's because Leicester realised if we cut off his supply chain, he's going to starve to death. Theoretically and not literally. Yeah. Don't get carried away, people. What I mean is we cut off his supply, we blocked off his areas of strength, and all of a sudden, Tottenham were a bit like us in that relegation season. They panicked when they realised they couldn't give it to Maddison and create something. They had nothing to answer for. And that allowed us to grow in confidence, feel that we could compete with them, push them back. And when they did, Chris, it was mistakes in their half that we forced Tottenham to make that led to us having chances. And ultimately, Chris, led to the goal. What's that goal back? That is exactly where our goal came from. Pressing and not giving up. We pressed the second, third, and fourth ball in that second half. We didn't even want to press the first ball in the first half. Yeah. And that's why ultimately we came away with a point.
Interesting, because Barnaby, like I say, who was the Spurs fan that came on and did the preview with me, he said, I mean, he did say it could actually end up 5-5. We were a bit off there, but he said if you get at us, our defence is very suspect.
Well, they definitely were, Chris, because we tore them apart in a few of our attacks last night. Let's be honest, Chris. I mean, like I said, we had that sexy Brazil-style football where Vardy should have really made it 2-1. The link-up play was
Vardy that had played more.
Oh yeah, I think
more game time would have put it away.
Oh yeah, definitely, Chris. But Vardy with a couple of games pre-season probably does bury that. I think he was on his last legs. But he said in his post-match, didn't he? He was fit as a fiddle for 65 minutes. So I'm not going to blame him for that after he's just got us a point in the game.
No, not at all.
Cannon might have scored it though, Chris. Who knows?
Well, yeah. The interesting thing is that in the post-match interview, when Cooper was being interviewed, the Leicester City TV guy was interviewing him, and he called number 40 Facundo. He wouldn't pronounce his surname either. But there we go. But Buenete, I've got to say, in that first half and in the second half, the player that had a quiet game for me, didn't do anything wrong, just had a quiet game, could disagree with me. It was Winks, and I think for me a lot of pressure was taken off him because Buenete had such a fantastic first game. What the fuck are Brighton? Although they sat at the top of the table there, but why have they let this guy go? And I know they're giving him an extended contract, to my view, but he ran. What few bits we had in that first half, he was running.
Yeah, Buenete was very, very good, and you say don't get excited about a loanee because I know we don't have any options to buy him, but that was a very impressive debut. If you're going to make your statement to say you're here for the fight, he was everywhere, Chris, and more so it was telling in the second half. But that was so good, and it was so important and crucial because what we need Winks to do. Yes, we've got Ndidi as a defensive midfielder, but they kind of between them were rotating who was going to push forward a bit more. And more times than not, actually, it was Wolf over Winks that was pushing more forward. I feel like, we're going to see Ndidi get that free roam to kind of, go forward and add to the numbers and drop back deeper when he comes back into it. But what it allowed Winks to do is something that goes unnoticed, and that's why you didn't really hear him too much in the game or through the commentary mentions, is he plugged spaces for us. He was one of them players that didn't necessarily get on the ball a lot, and we had that with a few players, to be honest with you. It's parts of that game. But what they do is they go, no, you can't pass it this way because I'll have it. You can't pass it to him because I'll intercept it. You can't go that way because I'll intercept it. And that's what you need players doing. It's all well and good getting tight and marking, but if you're giving them outlets that are unmarked, they're going to still find a way to get past you and around you, Whereas Winks is that man marshal. He was that one man marshal. You want to play it inside, you can't because I'll step in and take it off you. You want to go back with it, you can't because I'll latch onto it and I'll play a free ball for Vardy, and then you will be in trouble. And that's what I want to see from Winks. I think I was very impressed with the midfield, Chris, because they seem organised. Yes, they were too far off in the first half. There was a good 30-yard gap between them and Tottenham midfield. But in the second half, there were a lot more, right under the skin of Tottenham, if you will. But they did it sensibly. We weren't seeing three headless chickens run towards the ball, desperately trying to get the ball. We saw them kind of just slowly put the squeeze on Tottenham. And it worked well because that's it's what led to the attack. And it allowed Cornetti.
You're doing well. Twice you got it right.
It allowed Bonetti the freedom to run through the middle, Chris, and he did it well. Did he do a few too many step overs and give the ball away? Yes. Did he do it in our half, or did he lose it at the edge of their box? At the edge of their box. So if he's going to lose it anywhere, at least he's doing it deep in opposition territory.
Let's be honest. This is a different style of play to how we were last season. We don't necessarily need Winks to be all over the pitch like he was last season. And let's be honest with you, sometimes, 1 minute he was left back, next minute he was right winger up at the front. So we don't maybe need him to do that. But a point that Gray says here, they're worried about Will 3 players around him. I noticed that with Fatawu as well, with a lot of players. They were really closing us down, especially in that first half. You'd pass a ball to a Leicester player, and there was literally 2 or 3 Spurs players on the one Leicester player.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just a game or two of. It was like the teams completely swapped bodies, weren't it? They didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, they had no idea how to cope with this Leicester momentum. I mean, until Richarlison, I mean, if you think they've wasted 65 million on it, they should have learned from wasting 60 million on Richarlison. He's got about 3 goals, and 2 of them are against someone like Newport County in the cup. But
Yeah.
anyway, that apart from that chance, maybe the slanky chance as well, to be fair, it was all Leicester in creativity mode. And again, the Madders problem that I talked about earlier, Chris, that we had to have with us for that for a couple of seasons. Even when he was good, Chris, the Madders problem come out. You isolated him. He couldn't really do much else different. And I think Spurs were so dependent on it, they almost fell into the Madders trap that Leicester did when we had him. They were so dependent on that left side. You know, I noticed a comment now. I can't see where it is up on there saying, were we weaker on the left than we were the right?
Yeah.
Well, I think Spurs were weaker on the right than they were the left. Because once we kind of, like I said, suffocated Maddison Song, they had no answer. They didn't know how to attack us. And like you said, Chris, it went from us chasing shadows to them going, oh my God, stop these going. Gordon Bennett, we can't lose this game.
Do you
Does
think,
that
though,
mean
to
so embarrassing?
come back to Terry, I
What's
thought
that?
we were
I
stronger
want
on.
to see it. You got it up on screen. I'm like, where's the comment?
No, I've just put it up when you said that, in fairness. But just to come back to him, I actually thought we were stronger down the left. I thought Christensen had more the ball than Fatawu did.
I think he did, and the thing is, you know, it's easy to say we look weaker on one side than we were the other because we had more impetus in the attacking mind, in a sense, on the right hand side than we did on the left. I know the goal started from the left hand side with Christian's cross, who them players racing in the box must have thought, God, if only I was half an inch taller, because they only needed a touch, didn't it? That cross was wicked by Christensen, by the way.
Yes.
I know, and it got to Fatawu, and you know, obviously it wasn't his intended target, but it led to the goal nonetheless. You know, but also it's easy to accept that and think, oh, well, we're always going down the right, or we're going down the right 70% of the time compared to the left, so maybe we're weak on the left. Maybe Spurs were just weak on the right hand side, because despite getting, you know, a bit of a Premier League lesson, Fatawu, who quickly learnt, may I say, his lesson to stay on his feet and not try and do too much, you know, Spurs could not handle us on that right hand side. I mean, they couldn't really handle us on the left hand side, but when you've got Bonetti and Fatawu running at you, and you've got Vardy stretching you on the left hand side, suddenly, you know, like I said, because suddenly Spurs went from this is easy, this after 30 minutes, to from 50 odd minutes, 55 minutes onwards, right from the goal onwards, 57 minutes onwards, Chris, we're like that. The volley's there, the Christian's there, but he's there. So where do we go? And that is what led to the worst defending of Jamie Vardy I've ever seen in my life, because they didn't know where to go. And if you look back at the goal, Chris, when the cross comes in, before the cross, well, I say cross, it was like a piss-taking chip into the box when it was so nonchalant by Fatawu. I mean, his interview explains it as well. He knew Vardy would be there. That's what I love seeing. The fact that he said, I knew Vardy would be there. But you actually see the defender, Chris, look over his shoulder. He doesn't say anything. You know, I'm not saying, you know, suck Spurs off sports TV. I mean, Sky Sports TV had pundits on there that were saying how lucky we were and Spurs were amazing. Probably, I didn't bother listening to Spitterwoo and Neville afterwards. I only listened to the Vardy interview myself personally, but nobody seemed to point out the fact that their defender looked over his shoulder, saw Vardy, saw he had nobody around him, and not only did he not back up to him, but he didn't move because he's like, Vardy, but he's there and I've got to mark him and I've got to make sure he doesn't get in here. Nobody knew what they were doing. We caused panic to them in that second half.
I'm just going to defend Terry, though, because, down the left-hand side, we had 30% attacking. The right-hand side was 45%. But in balancing out, their left side, which was our right, was 31, and their right, our left was 42. I've probably confused you all now, but there we go. So yeah, we did actually. To me, watching it just shows sometimes, you know, what you watch is not, you know, you don't get the facts. But yeah, that was That was the fact. But let's go, because interesting to see. And I said this at the end of the watch along last night. I was having trouble after that second half picking a man of the match. There could have been so many players I could have awarded man of the match to. I thought Christensen did well. I thought Vestergaard did well. Mads did what Mads had to do. Yes, Vardy got the goal. Everybody was kind of fighting. I actually went for Buenete as my man of the match, slightly just over Vestergaard.
First of all, Chris, you're very right. For different reasons, you could have argued and given and been perfectly fine with the outcome of several man of the matches. Vestergaard for proving people wrong and having a solid game, and Madsen for doing what he does best very well and making it look easy, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest with you. Buenete for just being an absolute inspiration in that midfield. Like you said, even in the limited first half breakaways we had, he was the leader from it. However, you did mention him, Chris. Look, Vardy gets it because Vardy got it because it's Vardy. I mean, he's 37 years old, and there was, funny enough, one of the YouTubers I like to watch. He made one bold prediction about every Premier League club, and when he got to Leicester, he said Jamie Vardy will score no goals this season. He'll have one of the dreaded over 30 0-goal campaigns this season. It lasted 57 minutes. Your prediction, mate.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not going to give it to Vardy. I'm not going to give it to anyone that I've already mentioned. I'm going to give it to somebody who I thought was very good. He had to do a lot of defensive work. He hasn't been in the mix. He got cast out by Enzo. He looks set to be one of the few names on everybody's lips saying he'll go, get rid of him. He wasn't here last season. We can get money for him. They will want him. And he came back with the right attitude. The same attitude we've seen from Buenete in his interview. The same attitude we got from Oliver Skipp, despite my opinions on him. Fair play. He's coming in with the right attitude. He came back to Leicester with Cooper as manager with the right attitude. I'm here to give my all to Leicester, and I want to see us succeed. And I tell you what, brilliant performance. He almost deserves the assist ahead of Fatawu, and Fatawu was my lone love child last season, as you know, Chris.
Yes.
But I'm giving it to Victor Christensen. I was very impressed with Christensen, and I'm so glad he stuck around and wanted to do it, because he would have been one that, had we sold the season, I said, there's one we've let go that we shouldn't have. I'm really impressed with him, Chris.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
I've got to say, he was up there for me as well. I mean, Alan, as you know, Alan Bennett does our man of the match and rates the team performance. And, he goes to every game. And so, he is the one that actually chooses it. We say who we think, but he chooses it. And yeah, you're quite right. He's gone there for Jamie Vardy. And I can't argue with that. Yes, he got the goal. And, we often say, don't we, Brad, that, we shouldn't give it to somebody just because they got the goal. But his attitude I want to be on that pitch, and I want to be leading the line. We're struggling for strikers, let me at them, sort of thing. And because of that, yeah, I can't argue with that.
No, you can't. Like I said, you could have made an argument about several players that have been mentioned by people, not just last night, but people on the show, Alan, yourself, and who I've picked. And you could have gone, yeah, I can see why you picked him. I can really see why, because of this reason, that reason. But like you said, Chris, it's nice to have the headache in the sense of going, oh, God, who do we pick? Because there were so many good players, and going, oh, God, we have to pick one. You know what I mean? So it was nice to have such a broad decision to make, opinion for man of the match, because of how good they all were. A majority. You could even, I wouldn't have been remiss had you said Bobby De Culver-Reid was a contender for it, because I thought he was very solid. But I think, like Winks, Chris, he went a little bit not unnoticed, but he was doing all the running around and not getting reward or the praise for it because he wasn't getting the ball. You know what I mean?
Interesting you say that, because he was taking some health of a stick in the watch along last night. Get him off. He's rubbish. What's he doing? He can't play. Why did we buy him? Well, we didn't buy him off Fulham. We got him on a free, didn't we? But,
Who were these people?
I know. I was looking and I'm thinking, I wouldn't have started him. I'm going to be honest with you. Although I would have probably, if Vardy hadn't been fit and he doesn't like Cannon, I might have started Dakova Reed in Vardy's position. But I thought he did okay. I don't think he got up dug up any trees or anything. But I thought he did okay.
Yeah, he did, and he didn't need to dig up any trees. Nobody really needed to dig up any trees. It was good to say that we did have 4 or 5 players that dug up trees and helped us get the point. But to those people who said that last night, do you want them? Because I'm not sure what game you was watching, folks. Because Chris, again, like I said with Winks, you may not have seen him do much or didn't seem like he was doing much, but I tell you what he was doing. If there was space there, he was there. So, Gandalf, if you know Lord of the Rings, thou shall not pass. That was his job, to break them up. And that's why he started over Madadidi. He wanted an extra body that was a defensive winger. Yes, they exist, Chris, but that's what he was there for.
Yeah, he's got the Premier League experience as well. And very often, it's not what you do with the ball, it's what you do off the ball.
Exactly. And what he did off the ball was very good, Chris. Hey, you know what, Chris? On another night, had that pass gone into him a bit quicker, he could have been on the score sheet. I know his chance was offside, but that pass was probably delayed by half a second. He's shown at 31 he can still make them runs in and behind, and that was a static Spurs defence that didn't pick him up.
As you know, pre-season, I was to his signing what you were to Skip signing, if you like. Yes. And I had to say, in that Lens game, he was one of the few that actually came off that pitch with any credit for me. But there we go. Team performance. Overall, and I hope you like the new graphics, folks. Overall, he got an 8 off. The team got an 8 off Alan. And again, people were saying, well, yeah, but that first half performance wasn't very good. But it was. The first half performance was a defensive performance. We can't go like we did in the second half, 90 minutes for every single game against every, 19 other different styles of play. We had to defend, and we did it, and we did it well in that first half.
Yeah, we did. And I don't know what people were expecting. I don't know why they would have been expecting anything too dissimilar from how that first half played out in terms of Spurs' control. But like I said to you, apart from Poirot's goal, apart from Johnson's shot and Solanke's weird header, which, to be fair, he committed to heading it. Like I said, had he not fully committed to the header, he would have probably brought that ball down. And again, we could be talking about a different story. If hands and buts and coconuts for Spurs fans. But them 3 opportunities aside, can anybody name me an actual chance they had in the first half that Leicester didn't deal with? They might have had half chances, but they were blocked. And that's good defending, that's good communication, and that's stellar teamwork. I'm 100% all about that 8 out of 10, because it's not just because of the second half. It's because no matter what they did, whatever they did, Leicester did everything to try and stop them. And they all may have scored 1, but they only scored the same amount as we did, Chris.
Yeah. And let me just say something that I quoted earlier. If you want to know how good we were defensively, 13 corners.
Yeah, 13 corners, not a single goal. Chris, in that relegation season 2 seasons ago, 13 corners, we were going, we lost 11-0.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, yeah, indeed, totally. But also, why were they getting the corners? Because it was players. Because we were defending well and we were blocking it, But anyway, there we go. Right, so now then, very, very quickly, before we get on to the player ratings, our next 5 games, the red ones are away, the blue ones are home. I am feeling a little bit chirpy about Fulham.
15 points. Bring it on.
Oh yeah, we're going to beat Arsenal at their place, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Sodom.
I'm going to say thank you to Anthony and a couple of other Spurs Arsenal fans that came in, and we're very happy at what we managed to do yesterday. I had an Arsenal fan saying, surely a statue for Vardy in the morning. But look, I've got to say, Arsenal is obviously the one that scares me, and I think that's one of those games where we say, it's a bye, but you know what I mean? Well, I've forgotten the word now.
It's not a very nice cliche, but it's a free hit, isn't it?
Free hit, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, the Arsenal game is a free hit.
We all know what we're expecting, and
Villa. Villa. Look, they're doing well. They're in the Champions League. They may have other things on their minds.
But also, Chris, they didn't enamor me against West Ham because they kind of had the same, didn't they? They were very dominant, and then it was different roles reversed in the scoring sense, but they were all in control, couldn't score. West Ham took the lead, and I know Villa did take the game, but Villa's at home. I'm assuming because you've got them all colour coordinated.
Yeah, Villa are at home and Everton at home. The blue teams are home. The red ones with the red background are away.
Oh right, I get you. Yeah, 3 away, 2 at home. Chris,
did you think I'd gone blue for Villa then?
Yeah, I was confused because I was looking at the numbers saying, well, there's 2 greens. So why is it all
Sorry, that's that's a Canva for you. The numbers in different colours.
Yeah, but if you were to look at this season and say where do Leicester need to pick up points, and where would they look at teams and go, well, maybe a cheeky point like last night results was. Your cheeky point might be Villa. Arsenal, put in the performance. We'll take the L that's more than likely going to come away. Who knows? But there's no reason we can't have 10 points on the board come game week number 6, which will be Arsenal. I think there is, it is away. 2 away games there, which makes it a bit more daunting. But there was no reason, given our performance, especially in that second half, if we take that going forward, I would snap your hand off right now for a win at Fulham, a win at Palace, and a win against Everton.
Sorry to talk over you. No, totally agree. And Fulham weren't exactly brilliant against Man United. All right, it was a bit of somebody said a wonder goal. I mean, I won't call it a wonder goal, but it was. But they didn't. Yes, they were holding on for a 0-0, but it wasn't a brilliant performance from Fulham. Everton, look, they're bottom of the league, aren't they? You know what I mean? And Palace are losing all the best players. So definitely, like you say, I wouldn't mind 6. I'd take 7 points from those games, possibly. Possibly 9.
Yeah, I'd take 7 as well. Ultimately, Chris, if you want to look at it that way, let's say Fulham, beat Fulham, potentially draw against Villa, potentially draw against Palace if we don't beat them, and then beat Everton. I mean, there's all the reason to think we could get anywhere between 6 and 9 points from it. Realistically, I'd even be happy with 3 draws and a win at home to Everton. If that's how the next
look, we're basing this on what I would call Tete stats, aren't we? On 145-minute performance.
Oh well, give us a Premier League title now, then, mate. If that's how we're doing things.
Let's reel ourselves in here,
Yeah, we're going to go undefeated. We're going to get the golden Premier League trophy. Up it comes.
Right, we're not going to mention Jordan because I haven't even had time to look at what he's done. So it's you against me. Let's see what we give player ratings wise. Like I say, I did miss.
Are we going to go alternating so we can get a bit spicy about it? How do you want to do it?
If you want to do that, I'm happy to do that. So, I'll go first then. No, you can go first because it's
goalkeeper's union. Let me go first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you see, look, I've even done the country flags there. How neat is that?
You don't put the effort in, mate.
They can't, can they? This is what you pay your money for. Madsen Manson.
you know what? Like I said, didn't actually ultimately have a lot to do, but what he did well. Couldn't do anything about the goal. It was just one of them. It was always going out of his reach, and it just didn't go. You know, it didn't go enough out of his reach. You know, to go wide. I'm going to give him an 8. Very solid. And you know what, Chris? He read the game well because he made a lot of easy saves because of his reactions and reading the game. You know, racing out and snuffing the balls in behind our defence. A solid 8 for me. I think it was really well.
I've got to be honest with you. I do think that Danny Ward would have saved that goal, but that's another story.
yeah. Okay. All right, Chris. Put the drugs down. Put the drugs down. Oh, actually, no. I was one of them defended Ward. He might have made them same saves. You never know. I know people hate Ward.
I just could not resist. Don't put me wooden spoon down. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
After all that shit stirring you've just done.
I'm going to agree with you and go 8 because I think he did what was required of him. And let's be honest with you, we've had, well, that's it. Last time we were in the Premier League, there was a lot of players didn't do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can make things look easy by doing the right thing. You know, with the goalkeeper, it's all about making the yeah. It is positioning. Yes, indeed, 100%. So I will agree with you on that one. Now, Christensen. Yeah, I mean, you know my love for this player. This is my, this is Vestergaard's twin for me. He
ran a Danish love affair with the back line. I've just thought about that.
I'm not going to Australia in a few weeks. It's Denmark, mate. I love the guy. I thought his reaction to our goal. I mean, somebody said it earlier. It was like, it was like a Viking celebration almost. I mean, he could have thrown his toys out the pram and said, "Look, if I go back to Bologna, I can have Champions League football." He hasn't. He didn't have any choice. He was our player, but he hasn't. Spat his dummy out. He hasn't gone mad. To me, I thought he had a fantastic game. He did come close to being my man of the match, and for that reason, I'm giving him a very, very pleasing 9.
Yeah, I'm going to set the tone for it. I always give my man of the match the highest rating. Otherwise, he's not your man of the match, in my opinion. I'm going to give him a 9 as well. Very good to see. Very refreshing.
I wrote 10 down there for you.
I thought about it, but I think the max I am going to go is I can't give him a 10 because there was still some moments, some rusty moments from being out in the cold and a bit of a rough pre-season. But nonetheless, a solid 9.
Okay, then.
Wow, we all know Chris is giving this bloke a 12. But again,
I'm sorry. So is it sticking up that much?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's not millimeters either. Anyway, but no, seriously. Again, another player comes under scrutiny before a ball is. I'll let that answer it at the end. The question just pops up there. A player that was already getting doubted and brushed aside, and everybody was going, "Oh," before ball was even kicked. He's too old, he's too slow. This is where he'll get undone. Don't play him. We'll get absolutely robbed around it. Come with the man, come with the hour. Made some fantastic interceptions, some vital blocks, Chris, and we kind of, this was our defense for Danny Ward. Being as you mentioned, we're going to use an example. Our defense for Danny Ward is you can only be as good as the defense that's in front of you. Yes, Danny Ward had a few goals past him, but more times than not, Chris, let's face it, the guy was trying to save 27 shots a game, and you're going to concede 4 goals, 3 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals a game when that happens to you, no matter how good you are or how standard you are as a goalkeeper. Madsen Manson did his job very well. This man played his part in making his job a lot easier as well. I'm going to give spoilers to anyone here that's new, so you might as well do the talking on the next centre-back pairing. I don't go any higher than man of the match, but he joins his Danish counterpart, Mads, with a solid 8, and you know where I'm going next with the other
line.
But I don't say anything for the newbies. Let's see if we can do this. But...
I'm going 9 again because
Ooh,
no,
only
I
three
mean,
less than I said.
sorry.
Only 3 less than I said you'd go then.
No,
You're giving out more points than you've got in the predictions league.
Yeah, that's not hard. That's not hard at all. But look, I look, I thought he had a fantastic season last season. And I think why I like him is because everybody was against him, and but that wasn't his fault. He hadn't played enough. If we were going to hate Vestergaard for what he did before Enzo came in, we should have hated Johnny Evans at the same time because he was fucking awful when he first came. But once he got played in it now, if he was playing the way that we played him last season, I would be shitting myself. But it doesn't look like we are. Stop playing with yourself. It doesn't look like we are. So
It's just talking so well about Vestergaard, it just gets me excited now.
So I've gone a 9 as well. Now this is my turn to go first, isn't it?
It is.
Not my favourite player, but he was part of a back line.
Justice for Wout Faze. I love him. I think he's brilliant. Everybody else is harsh against him. I'll adopt him. He's like the dog that no one takes for shelter. I'll take him in. He will be my Vestergaard. He'll be my Vestergaard to what Vestergaard is to you.
But the thing is, now that Vestergaard is sitting back, we can afford for him to maybe have those runs. Do you know what I mean? And it won't matter if he's caught out of position because you've got Vestergaard back to cover. And look, I can't fault the defence in any form, and I've got to give him an 8.
Yeah, and you know my theory is, Chris, if one centre back makes a mistake, it's because he's trying to cover for his centre back partner's mistake. And when one player, like you just said there, Chris, is able to play their more natural game, it's because his defensive partner is playing their natural game and playing better. Vestergaard got an 8 from me. No spoilers here because I always do this. More times than not, unless I give one of them man of the match, he also gets an 8.
Yeah. Justin, go on. Your turn to go first.
Seemed to do a lot more in the second half, but you talked about it from set pieces, Chris, in terms of how many corners we gave away. When they did get in behind, and we did kind of go, oh, this man was the coolest man in the box. Yes. Step in, foot in, block, give away a corner. Rather give away a corner than a free shot on our goal. And I'll tell you what, maybe not as noticeable going forward. Christensen did steal the limelight in that sense of the wing-backs going forward. But when you've got someone like Fatawu in front of you, you don't necessarily need to be joining the attack going forward. I think Christensen needed to compensate for Dickover Reed because he wasn't as athletic going forward as we were when Mavididi went on. That did help that situation on the left. Funny enough, he nearly got an assist for the goal, didn't he, with Ndidi's chance, Mavididi and Fatawu. It's almost like we've had them for a year playing together and they know what they're doing. My point stands, solid, reliable. I know my man of the match has a 9, but it's 8 all around essentially for the rest of them because solid game, Chris. Even that first half, solid.
I'm gonna speed up now because I've got another show in 31 minutes. Yeah. So I'm gonna, me included. All I'm gonna say with Justin coming on is, did we really miss Ricardo? And the answer is no. And for that, he gets an 8. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give to a player. Harry Winks. Oh, it's me to go first, isn't it?
Yes.
Like I say, thought he had a quiet game by his standards, but I think we may see more of that this season because he doesn't need to run everywhere. Did nothing wrong, but it's a 7 for me, a solid 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, Chris. Again, didn't do anything wrong. Impressed with his work, but I know. Stop the press. Stop. Yeah. Alert the media. Brad and Chris agree with it. But he was, Chris. We had a handful of players that we've already spoke about, and there's a few more we'll come across, no doubt.
Yeah.
That did pull up the trees and stand out a little bit more than the rest. We're not saying he had a bad game, but he gets a steady 7. And in a
Yes.
draw, we're giving 7 and 8 and even a 9, Chris. So it tells you how good the performance was.
Yeah. Indeedy.
I love this man's new role. He's got a new role this season. He's played as a solid CDM under the bell end. He played as an attacking midfielder under Enzo. And now he's your box-to-box midfielder, it seems, under Cooper. And he's only 27, Chris. I thought this guy was coming into his 30s. He's 27. You forget how long he's been here. We got him when he was 21. He is a dime a dozen. And you know what? We say it about Vardy. Man's loyalty is non-questionable. I don't care if he's got a 25 or 30 million or whatever his release clause is. I think, no, Chris, he could have left us. He could have done a Tillemans. He could have undone, and yes, he waited. But the new man came in, and he went, "I'm impressed with what I'm hearing. I am going to sign that contract and stay." Like I said,
in fairness, that is his saving grace. He could have decided, he could have committed sooner, but then with everything that was going on, I'll allow him that. How much are you giving to him?
If he'd have scored the goal, he'd have got an 8, but I am going to give him a 7 because, like Winks, he did have spells where he wasn't necessarily needed, I guess, Chris, is the way to put it.
No, I disagree with you on this one. I've gone 9.
Oh, no, I'm all for it, Chris. I was being cautious because I thought maybe I was going to get shot down for being higher. So you're going to go 9, Chris. I'm pushing it up to an 8 as well because I would.
Okay, yeah. I'll up you to an 8.
Chris, I thought you was going to slate me for going 8.
No. And I think a bit of that he's probably got 2 for that overhead defensive kick that he did. Chowdhury-esque off of that. I mean, that could have gone so wrong. I mean, he could have shinned it. It could have, we've seen those go in before. But he had a solid game, like you say, box to box. What is this thing, Didi? Who is this man? You know what I mean? And for that, I think he had a very good game. I'm going to give him a 9. So we're agreeing. Abdul, Mr. Fatawu. Is it me first? It's me first, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Look, beautiful assist.
Oh, awesome.
If you are cheeky enough to put a cross into the box with the outside of your foot and just say, I just want somebody to get on the end of it. Or like you said, I know Jamie's going to be there. You couldn't say that about Daka because that's what Cordova-Reid tried to do against Longs and Daka was still in the centre circle. I thought, look, he's going to be quieter than he was against championship teams because we're playing at a different level. But to say that was his first ever Premier League game, he gets an 8 from me.
Chris, I've made this no secret because I'm crap at keeping them. But my love for this lad is like your love affair with, Nacho. Who is he?
How soon we move on.
Well, he went to Sevilla, so that's his fault. Even this daily, he's still been a boy. Now, I'll always have fond memories of Nacho. I know he wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I really
I like him. I like him. You'll get no arguments from me.
And I listened to his post-match interview, and he's so wholesome and he's so honest as well. He admitted that the step-up's different. He admitted that he learned during that game, and you could see it in his performance. He changed. It almost like he develops as a footballer over 90 minutes, Chris. And and the fact is, he's got an assist under his belt game 1. That can only do his confidence any good. The fact that he said, I knew Vardy would be there if I just got the ball in, just tells you how good they are and how much trust they have in each other to be where they need to be to create chances. If this is what he does on his first game, Chris, Premier League is not ready for Fatawu. When he gets going and he really cuts, Chris, Gordon Bennett, not Ryan Bennett. Don't get panic attacks. I said Gordon Bennett. He's going to be a hell of a time this season. And you know what? He worked it out, Chris. I'm going to give him a 7 because I want to give him an 8 for an amazing performance. That's why I'm holding back. I can't give him an 8 for this performance because I think the 8 performance and 9 performance is going to be next level.
Well, Jordan, I am well surprised at you.
Oh, shut up, you! Don't you dare call me that. Don't slur me
Wait
like
to
that.
see if he'd pick that up or not. Okay, let's go on to Facundo Buonetti.
Potential man of the match for me. He was right in there with contention. Was on in part of everything good. His link-up play. You know what, Chris? For a few moments there, you kind of, if you didn't know any better, Chris, and it was your first Leicester game, and you didn't know anything about the club, you'd have thought he'd been there for years because he seemed to have the link-up play and understanding like that. For a guy who needed a translator to communicate with us fans on his thing, and probably has to have that still, why his intense English course to learn the language, he looked like he'd been here for years. Chris. Very, very promising lonely debut performance. Don't want to put the Tete curse on him. It was a very solid performance until he came off for Samare, who I was happy to see play, by the way. Just pointing that out there. Happy to see Samare get some minutes.
We'll be doing substitutes, don't worry.
8. I'm giving him an 8.
Right.
Very impressed with what I saw.
Look, you know my feelings. I've said this about him already. 3 words I can say about this guy. Kieran Dewsbury, who?
You wrote that down in your pre-notes, didn't you?
I just thought about that now. That's good though, isn't it? Come on.
I like that, Chris. You can use that next time. I like that.
Yeah. I just think this. I'm surprised Brighton have let him go. I'm not surprised that they signed him on a longer contract before he left, though. My man of the match, he gets a 10 from me because.
Wow!
How can somebody
Chris is throwing out 10s, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh yes, in this performance, and look, let's take everything into account. This was his first game for us.
Yeah,
like
very
you said,
true.
You wouldn't know. You watched that game, you would not know. And these are you would not know that was his first game. You'd have thought he'd been playing for us for years. He slotted into that team brilliantly. We know what he can do because he played 40 odd times for Brighton last season. We know he can do that, and he did it. And again, I don't want to put the curse on him,
didn't we?
Yeah, but I just think that he could fill that gap, that hole that has been left by Kieran Dewsbury. So yes, he does get a 10 from me. All right, the man himself.
Jamie Vardy does Jamie Vardy things. I don't think there's been a Leicester manager since he started playing for us that hasn't said that at any point in the interview. And Steve Cooper's already said it about him pretty much in no uncertain sense. Jamie Vardy, no party. Front line, the general, commander, leader, whatever terminology you want to use for it, mate. When we were all here, crapping the brick, thinking, oh my God, we're going to have bloody Danny Ward up front. We're that low on strikers. We're going to put a goalkeeper up front. Someone save us. Come with the hour. Come with the nearly an hour as well when he scored the goal. It was 57 minutes. He couldn't have got much closer to making that statement really true. You know what, Chris? It was just Jamie Vardy, weren't it? If anyone was going to steal the show a little bit, I'm tempted to break my rule. I'm tempted to break my rule and give him a 9. But you know what, Chris? You've given a 10. You've already broke rules, so I'm going to break rules. He gets a 9. And number 9 gets
I don't think I've broken a rule by giving somebody a 10. But there we go.
I mean, you've set the bar now, Chris. If he goes and scores a hat-trick, no, if Bonate scores a hat-trick against Fulham, you can't give him 11s and 12s. That's it. Now you have to give him a 9.
I can give him a 10 star.
You have to give him 10s every time now.
Look, if Bruno can give multiple golden buzzers out on BGT, I can give a 10 out. Yeah, look, I am going to give Jamie Vardy a 10.
Bloody hell. And you must be feeling very generous. You're giving out 10s everywhere. But no, honestly, Chris, I agree with you. Very good performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, this guy, like you say, he's not had hardly any training sessions, let alone sort of pre-season matches. He's come in and he's stood up and said, I want to play. Let me on that pitch, give me 65, whatever minutes, 60 minutes. Just get me on there. That honestly, that's the attitude, and that's the attitude that other players will be looking at, and that's the attitude we need this season. Anybody exemplifies Foxes never quit. This is the man. This is
Definitely,
the
mate.
man.
Man
Now,
needs a statue or room named after him in the boxes, doesn't he? After he retires.
yes, yeah, the statue, even statue. Look, I forgot to do a thing for him, but the Cova reader, Decado, for God hell, the Cova read.
Bobby called Dover Reed.
Yeah. My turn to go first. I don't think he was that bad. I don't think he was outstanding. You know, it was not a 10 by any stretch of the imagination.
Are you sure, Chris?
I'm sure.
He looked like he fitted right in at home. He looked good. Looked like he played for us for years. You sure don't we give him a 10?
7 for me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Very solid, dependable. Didn't pull up trees, but didn't need to at points. And given his role, given what he was asked to do with him for the majority of the time he was on the pitch, a very solid 7 for me.
Yes, indeed. Now, substitutions.
The irony, the picture you use has got Daka in the background.
I know, but look, I was trying to find a Leicester. I was hoping it wasn't one that had Enzo on, and it doesn't. But you know, I was trying to find one where there was hasn't got a sponsor on his front. The guy on the left.
Kels. Poor Kels hasn't got a sponsor on his shit. He must have known he was going to leave in a few years' time.
But I was trying to find one where it had got the substitute. Anyway, we'll go to Stefan Mavididi.
Nearly set up the winner. I think he helped us pin Spurs back after that unfortunate concussion injury because that destabilised the game for both sides. I think it was a perfect substitution. I cannot believe we're saying this, Chris, because it's been about 4 years since we've been able to say this, but a manager who got his substitution spot on in personnel and timing.
Yes.
Because just what you needed to keep that pace up and keep them pinned back a bit and frustrate them a little bit, we put on this guy who is electric pace. Sure, we'll see him start games sooner rather than later. Like I said, I feel the rotation on that left and right-hand side, both in the defence and attack, we'll see throughout the season. Didn't get too much time to do much. Would have got a 7 had he got the assist and indeed he scored, but I'm going to give him a 6.
Oh.
He just didn't have long to do much, did he, really? But he nearly did. He nearly did prove something vital to us.
He got 7 from me. Let me put it that way. Now, this guy, to be honest with you, I don't think he was on long enough. I mean, he gets 6 from me because what he did when he came on. Actually, I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him 7, to be honest with you, because he did relieve the pressure a lot, and he did get stuck in a couple of times. I'm thinking he only came on for 2 minutes, but we had 9 minutes of injury time. So I'm going to give him a 7.
And again, Chris, his first touch was nearly a goal. I mean, what an impact that would have been off the bench of that hit the corner of the net, not the roof of it. Ended the game. Well, didn't end the game, but this morning signed a new long-term contract.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So his days got even better. So as Leicester fans, and it's amazing what a draw in a 45-minute form to do. The optimism around Leicester all of a sudden from where it was. 24 hours ago from now, I'm going to give him a 6. I'm going to keep it fair with Mavididi. Looked good, came on, and again, Steve Cooper got everything right, and the players got their instructions right.
Your turn to go first, thank God.
I actually didn't think he did anything wrong. Came on, did his job again, like the rest, had a role to play, shored things up, cut the ball out a few times, wasn't on for long. I was surprised he got on with the rumours of him going away, but you've got to put things in the shop window if that is the case. And if not, didn't do anything for me to kind of go, oh, I don't want to see him play in the Premier League this season. I'm going to give him a 6, Chris. I think it's only fair.
He may well have been in the shop window, but I think, unfortunately, we'd brought the window blinds down. I didn't see anything there that to my mind, I'm sorry, he's had enough chances. He hasn't done anything for me. I'm giving him a 5. I'm sorry.
5 and 6 on that one, Chris. You know what we say.
I know.
So,
And very, very quickly again, I haven't done a graphic for him, but Steve Cooper as manager. My turn to go first. I think he got everything spot on. All right, the first half was a little bit tits up, but what I liked was the fact that he could look at that and go, "This ain't working."
Yeah.
And how often in those positions, not only under the seal, but under the bold-headed eagle last season as well. How often did we come out in that start of that second half and concede a goal?
Very true. Yeah, very true.
We didn't. He had 5 substitutions. And I know in the past we've sort of said, well, why didn't we make more? You know, Brendan could have made more substitutions and all that. But I don't think we needed to. I think that was enough.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you, Chris. And you know what? Again, if you haven't already, guys, after we finish here, because you give Chris 10-minute respite, go and listen to Steve Cooper's post-match interview. It is very good to hear. Then he put his hands up, and it was nice, Chris, because like I said, we haven't had it in years, for a manager to go, you know what? That didn't quite work out how we planned it. Let's do this instead. Let's do this, and this will work, and then that's how we'll get something from the game.
And to be honest with you, I think as well, and why I gave him 10 for Jamie Vardy was because I think he would have had a bit to say about it as well.
He did. He admitted freely that the players and Vardy. We know Vardy. When someone says all the players had a word as well, we know it's Vardy. He's the general, like I said. And you know what, Chris? You've been slapping them out like it's Christmas cards. I'm going to give Steve Cooper, for his first game, all the pressure on him. Everything was going to go wrong. We were going to get back to 7-0. We've come away with a point. I'm going to give him a 10. I think he handled everything perfectly.
You are a man of good taste, sir, because I've also given a 10. And I don't care what anybody says if they started going like it was too hot for substitutions for Brendan. Yes, it was. Vaz makes all the difference just by booting up. Indeed. If you're wondering, look, well, we've only come away with a point. You need to go and watch that game again because it was brilliant. Brad, thank you so very, very much, mate. On X, where can people find you?
At Full-Time Focus is my Twitter handle, because I don't like it. I think it's just a crap name. There's no need to change it, just the multi-billionaire that is. But on X, if you want to call it that, but on my Twitter handle is at Full-Time Focus. You can obviously find me here, and you can find me on YouTube at LTID TV2, where in the making. I know it's close to Christmas, but I haven't quite got else working on it. But I am working on a football quiz for you all to enjoy.
The snow is on the roof, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, might arrive before the quiz does, but it will come eventually.
I'm going to come before the quiz comes, I'll tell you.
Oh, anyway. Chris, it's not 9 o'clock. You can't say that.
Thanks very much, Brad. Have a good one. We'll see you on Friday for the Prediction League.
Yeah, I wonder who's out of who on that.
Anyway, on that note, all the best, Brad. Have a good day. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, Chris. And see you later, guys.
Buddy. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks very much to Brad there. LTID TV2 at Full-Time Focus. Get over there and give him your support. I am going to be back in about 11 minutes, 10 minutes time. We'll be doing the Let's Talk Leicester, the debate show with Craig and with Kate, who were both there last night. Thanks to everybody that's been in. Thank you to the mod, Grace. Thank you for that, mate. And thank you for everybody else's help. I will see you all in 10 minutes now. Take care. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Please like the video and click that notification bell, and you'll always know when we go live. And if you want to join and become a member, $1.99, details are below, and you can even get yourself presenting with us. $1.99. It's not even half a pint, that is it? But anyway, thanks very much. Hope you've enjoyed that. This has been LTID TV. I've been Chris, and I will be back. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.